Hello and welcome to Master Your Life with Kate McKay, a show exclusively dedicated to uncovering the path to excellence through powerful stories of grit, determination, and transformation. Thank you for joining me, and I'm really excited to introduce my guest today, Blair Kaplan Venables. Welcome.
Hello, Kate. I am so excited to be here.
Super pumped. I'm going to do a little intro and then we're going to get right on into it. So Blair is an expert in social media and marketing and president of Blair Kaplan Communications, a British Columbia-based PR agency. And yes, she is one of the forerunning people that really is very well known in her industry. And I'm really looking forward to talking about that business. She brings 15 years of experience to her clients, which include global wellness, entertainment, and lifestyle brands. She's the creator of the social media empowerment pillars and has helped her customers to grow their followers into the tens of thousands in just 1 month, win integrative marketing awards, and more. She is also listed in the US Today as one of the top 10 conscious female leaders to watch in 2022. You go, girl. And she also has spoken on national stages, and her expertise has been featured in media outlets, including Forbes, CBS Radio, Entrepreneur, and Thrive Global. And she's really deeply passionate and just published her second book, The Global Resilience Project. I'm really looking forward to hearing more about the Global Resilience Project, but just first, holy camole, you be something.
Well,
something.
Well.
Here we are. So tell me, where did you grow up, Blair?
Okay, so I was born and raised in Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada. You know, the summers are very hot. The winters are very, very cold. We get all 4 seasons very distinctly. I'm born and raised in Canada. I've moved across the country, eventually made my way out west to the West Coast.
Right. Okay, cool. And so what did you want to be, or who did you want to be when you grew up? Did you have an idea who you or what you were interested in at a young age?
Yeah, I don't know why, but I remember always wanting to be a psychologist. But it's interesting because recently, in the last year and a half, my mom passed away. And so my sister and I were packing up our house and I found all my old diaries. And in my diaries from a young age to like teenage years, I always wrote about how I wanted to be a writer and be a published writer. But I guess I never thought of it as a career, but I always wanted a book to be published. So it's interesting because I wanted to be a psychologist. I went to university. I started down that path. I was like, nope, not for me. But then I learned what public relations was, and I went into public relations because I was good at it and I was already doing it. But I forgot that I had dreams of being a published writer.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Well, it's like, isn't psychology even behind social media, right? It's that study of the human, the humans as being just fascinating, right? And what they respond to.
Yeah. I just, when I started learning, I was like, I think I need a psychologist. I don't know if I want to become one.
Why do you say that?
Oh man, I have so much trauma from my childhood. I should have, in a perfect world, I would have gotten support at a younger age. My parents divorced when I was 7. My father lived with addiction, and I'm talking like bad addiction. He was a diamond dealer. He sold the business, left the family, and battled. Like, he didn't live on the streets, but it was pretty close. He destroyed a lot of relationships and he hurt a lot of people because of it. And it traumatized me, but I didn't understand what was happening. I thought my dad just stopped loving me. So I grew up like with huge abandonment issues and trust issues and anxiety. And I have PTSD and trauma from like my dad, who I was really close with, to always being around, to in and out of my life when I thought he didn't care about me. He was just really unwell with addiction. So I should have been in therapy.
Right. And why do you think that didn't happen?
In the 90s, there was a stigma around it. I don't think we also knew then what we know now about addiction to cocaine or crack or heroin or anything like of those substances. Like back then, I think there was a big focus on AA, but we didn't really understand, because from my belief, I think the family saw it more as he was choosing to live that life, not that it was a disease.
Right. So powerful. So true. Oh, I remember my father saying, I'm one of 9 kids, just talk about
Whoa.
freaking chaos, dude. But I remember my dad saying, oh, kids are resilient. They're going to be fine. Right. So this was the concept that children were resilient. They were going to be fine. And now we're understanding at such a deep level. And I, thank you for sharing, but that whole idea behind what that lack of love and believing that you were somehow responsible or unworthy of being loved. And here it is so powerful that resilience is such a huge part. And what do you think the bridge is between grief and trauma and resiliency, Blair?
I had to be resilient at an early age. It was my mom, me, and my younger sister. I had to grow up really fast. So I didn't know that the things I was doing were helping me become more resilient, like writing in a journal, writing up my feelings, creating. I was very creative. Things I was doing as a kid were helping me become more resilient, figuring out how to navigate the challenges. And then, fast forward to recent years, like in the last year and a half, I lost my baby. I had a miscarriage after trying to get pregnant for years. 3 weeks later, we lost my father-in-law. 3 months later, we suddenly lost my mother. And not even a year later, my dad died. When my dad and I mended our relationship when I was in my 20s, and I got a second chance. So at the end of 2018, I learned he was terminally ill. We started sharing our story of forgiveness, his addiction, and resilience. And I made decisions to help me navigate his end of life. I have anxiety and depression because of all the trauma and probably intergenerational trauma and my genetic makeup, my brain chemistry. So I cut out alcohol. I've been sober now for 3.5 years. I increased my therapy. I started doing research on different ways to feel better because I was no longer escaping. And what I learned from learning my dad was going to die and choosing sobriety and starting the Global Resilience Project was there's actually scientific ways that you could be more resilient and strengthen your proverbial resilience muscle. And if I didn't start doing all that work, I don't know how I would have navigated the miscarriage or navigated my father-in-law suddenly dying or my mother suddenly dying and my dad dying.
Right.
So it's all intertwined: grief, resilience, healing, trauma.
It is. Well, what is your definition of resilience?
Yeah, I used to think resilience was bouncing back from a difficult time. Like I picture a rubber band and, you stretch it and you let go and it bounces back. But I had this epiphany last summer and it's not that. It's bouncing forward. Resilience is bouncing forward from a difficult time, because when you go through something, you never are the same again. So what are you bouncing back to? There's no going back. There's only going forward. So resilience is bouncing forward from a difficult time or a challenging time.
And so what would you advise the viewers and listeners, tools or tips or strategies that you, after all of that, massive loss, and then being courageous enough to know, like, hey, I know I've got to do this clean. Like, what would you advise someone who feels that, man, they don't have that hope or they don't see that way out, that they feel like more that they're just living in their trauma?
Yeah. I mean, I think when you have grief, it doesn't go away. You just learn to layer life around it. The trauma doesn't go away either. You learn to layer life around it. You learn to navigate it. And I think what you need to know is that there's always a way out, and you don't have to make all these big changes at once. You can do little things to move the needle. And there are things you can do that are really easy and really big, but small, that will help you. So about 6 or 7 years ago, I don't know, time has no essence in pandemic. I've lost all track of time, but, I watched a video. I was going to a retreat. I watched a video, Sean Acor, about the happiness advantage. And he said in this video, if you practice gratitude every day at the same time, and you list 3 things you're grateful for from the past 24 hours, and you do it for at least 21 days, the neural pathways in your brain change. So you see the world in a more positive way. I pulled out my phone. I set an alarm. I called it the gratitude alarm. It goes off every single day at 9 p.m. It's a non-negotiable. It's easy. You can do it anytime. You can start your day. You can do it at dinner, 9 o'clock. If I'm at a house party, we all stop and do it. If I'm alone, I'll text my husband. Sometimes I share it on social media. I did it, holding my mom's hand as she was dying. We did it the day my dad died. My whole family sat around and practiced gratitude. That's something that anyone can do that doesn't cost money. And you know what? There's days I don't want to do it. Like, I'm not perfect. There are days where I am miserable and like having a hard day, and I shut my alarm off, and my husband from across the house might yell like, I'm grateful for cats and hockey and boobies. Like, you know, or maybe it's something as like, it's a bad day and like, I'm grateful for the day being over, for Advil, and for going to bed, you know, but I do it every day. That's something that anyone can do. And I was doing that before anyone died, before anyone was diagnosed to be terminal. And so that's one small thing that you can do that scientifically proves that you can get, like, it helps you be more resilient.
Yeah. And, you know, I think that there's this sense that gratitude is like a light thing. You know, it's like, oh, I'm just grateful for this or that. But I mean, I love it that it's not just the positive things. It's, you know, it's also like, let's just get real. You know, it's not happy, happy, joy, joy, but it is setting a state of positive expectancy that things can be different. But it's also this piece of surrendering, of being able to say, man, I am present in this moment and it is what it is.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
And so there is this depth to gratitude. It is acceptance. Gratitude is acceptance. It's surrender. It's being present. It's so much of that for me. You know, especially after I lost my son in 2017, it was like I surrendered. I had no choice. And then from that place was the place of resurrection. But I never would have done the healing and the grief work and the transformative, and see the transformative power of grief. I believe, obviously, in post-traumatic stress. I know it's real. My brother and my son were both murdered at the same age, at 22. It's like there's been trauma.
Whoa.
And I believe that there's something called post-traumatic transformation. I transformed into another vessel. I shed parts of me. And that really shifted my conscious my conscious understanding. So I believe in that process. I'm deeply grateful that you shared that with us, that the importance of gratitude. Is there any other practices that you do that has really, you know, worked on grounding you through your loss and honestly through your friggin' ridiculous success? Like, ridiculous.
Okay, well, first of all, thank you so much for sharing your story. That is, can I swear?
Yeah.
That's fucking terrible.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Like, my heart, like, I feel it in me. I'm sorry. I can't imagine. I can't fucking imagine. Well, I mean, I lost a child, but they were like 8 weeks, not 22 years. And, you know, I'm sorry. And thank you for sharing. And what you're saying is about post-traumatic transformation. I understand that, because what I've really learned is that I'm not going to have children. And I'm in this body in this lifetime to turn my pain into purpose, to get on those stages and podcasts like yours, and, you know, in magazines and on my social media, to share my story, to help people, share my story of sobriety, of loss. Right now I'm navigating a cyst on my ovary, and it's 4.5 centimeters and it's painful as fuck. And like, I'm sharing what's going on because, you know what, I'm also building this business and I'm just turning my pain into purpose. And in my lifetime, my job is to empower people, to help people heal, to be that like house in a storm. But that wasn't the answer to your question. What was your question?
Yeah, no, it's perfect. No, it was just, you were just more of a reflection. Yeah. So when you're thinking about, because you are such a powerful energy and a powerful force, right? What do you think about? I mean, you're powerful as a human, right? Successful, powerful, present, all of these incredible qualities that a lot of people look to you. What do you think about the word? I used to not like the word empower. I don't know. I was always empower. Like, I don't need someone else to be. I had an edge about myself. What's your take on that word?
Holy shit. Okay. So you know how you want to talk about the bridge between my two hats?
Yes.
One is a resilience thought leader and one is a social media expert. So last year, my word was empower. Like, I always pick words. And I actually created a system called the empowerment pillars, the social media empowerment pillars. And they're the 7 things you need to build out in a social media strategy so that you're seen as a thought leader. Because if you are in business and you're listening to this, you want to be a thought leader. You want to be in the media. You want to be that expert. You want to innovate. You want other experts to come and learn from you and want to be around you. And so I like the word empower because for me, I want to empower others. I want to give people the tools they need to up level, whether it's be more resilient or tell stories in the digital space or be a thought leader or fucking put down the bottle or, break through a level of grief so they can like get out of bed and shower. Like, I really see the word empowering as a beautiful thing. And, I even created a whole social media system around it.
Let's go. All right.
I love it.
Ooh, my Ral. And I feel very differently about this now, particularly in this Rhonda tribe deal that we're in together, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's like this whole thing about women often will use like, oh, I'm here to empower others, but not owning their own power.
Oh yeah.
It's like, no, you are powerful and.
Oh no, you got to root your trunk down into the earth.
Yes.
Stand in your power, own your shit. Like what you see is what you motherfucking get with me. Like, 100%. And I can't even pretend. Like, I can't pretend to like, oh yeah. Like, no, like literally what you see is what you get. I've stopped trying to pretend I'm something that I'm not, but I'm also here to lift others. I believe in business. There's plenty of business to go around. There's plenty of money. There's energy and money are the same. There's plenty of it to go around, and that we're not competition with one another. We're actually here to help lift each other up. So like, what can we do to rise together? Yes. And that's, to me, empowerment. It's standing in your power. And not all of us have found that. I literally came into the world blaring. I have the gift of the gab. I know that. When you asked what I wanted to be when I was younger, I even looked into going to radio broadcasting school. I was like, I want to be a radio DJ. Now I have 2 podcasts. Back then, my mom's like, there's no money in radio DJing. You should be a psychologist like you wanted. So I didn't go into radio broadcasting, but I literally some people haven't found that in them yet because they don't have that confidence and they don't have the people around them to help bring it out. Yes. So if you and I can be here to do that for people, imagine that gift. Imagine the transformation the world will have because we're here to lift other people up.
Non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm.
Just absolutely non-negotiable. Totally. So what has been your path to success? I mean, just what has been that confidence booster and that thread of I am here to make a difference. I'm here to be successful. I'm here to make money. I'm here to have impact.
So it's funny. So I have a podcast. Me and my podcast co-host, Teresa Lambert, just recorded our 90th episode, and it's called Dissecting Success. And I think we need to start off by defining what success is and knowing that success will mean something different to absolutely everyone. When I was younger, I thought it was the money and the house and the this and the that, but it's not to me. It's about happiness. It's about a sense of calm, a sense of balance. And that's always shifting. And I now remember the last question you asked me about other rituals and how I stay grounded. And this is a good, foray into that. Success to me at this moment in time of recording is going to probably be different than what it is in a couple months, but it has a bunch of different layers. But right now for me, mental health, physical health are my priorities. If I don't have that, what do I have? I'm navigating this cyst on my ovary. Maybe will resolve itself. Maybe it's going to keep growing. I'm very uncomfortable. And I just navigated losing 3 parents and a baby. So I've been in this state of chaos. So what can I do? So I ease into my day. No more waking up, hitting my alarm and getting to work. No fucking way. I wake up, move my body, whether it's 10 minutes or an hour. Maybe it's yoga. Maybe it's a walk. Maybe it's a ride on my Peloton. Maybe it's strength training. I move my body. Maybe it's a hike. Then I have a candlelit bath where I meditate. I put on meditation music. I meditate. I get out of the bath. I'm still listening to meditation music. I pull an oracle card. I sit with it. And then I journal. Then I go, if it's nice out, I go and drink my coffee outside. Yeah. And so success is having the freedom to choose to live the life I want financially. If I want to go on a trip and it costs $5,000 to $10,000, I can make that decision. I want to donate money to be philanthropic. I do it. I have that ability. If I want to be on this podcast or change a meeting because I need a nap, success is being in control.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. And being grounded in that. My morning ritual is so yummy. It's like that same kind of thing. It's like I get up and I can't wait to read, and I journal and I write my prayers and I meditate, and I'm just like, coffee. It's just so good. And it's like an hour and a half that goes by so quickly. I'm literally in the morning drooling. I can't believe how good it is. It's a non-negotiable soul setting.
Yeah. And, I think like as seasons change, my rituals change. And as projects come, like my most creative time is the morning. So I have to decide, do I want to have my 3-hour morning routine? Or do I get up and spend an hour, like 5 to 6 a.m. or 6 to 7 a.m. banging out some fucking epic content and then do my routine? It's always changing.
Right.
But it's a choice, not I have to get up and write, but I'm getting up and writing because I choose to.
I love that. It's the power of choice. It's so good. Well, just when you're just even looking at the neuroscience, in the morning, we do have dopamine at its highest and best, and our cortisol, our happy cortisol, is in the morning. So usually that is the best time for creative work. But I think that setting intention and doing all of that work, and why is it that not using cortisol or dopamine to be in our imagination or live in our creative space of prayer, like you with the oracle card, that is creative space, that's visioning, and it is important. We have to be looking at and creating that future, backcasting for what we want, and then thinking about how we want it to look. So how do you set vision, or what was your vision for you? Did you know as you were manifesting it what you wanted? Like,
well, okay. My biggest manifestation that I'm holding true, and I came up with it last August on my birthday, on August 8th, the 8th of the 8th, during the Lionsgate portal.
Looking for an inspirational speaker at your next event? Please reach out to us at kate-mckay.com and to book Kate at your next event.
That by the time I'm 40, so that's 3 years from now, I want to empower 88 million people.
Woo!
So that's that. So that's my vision. So everything I do I say yes to being on Kate's podcast? Will it help me get towards that goal? Yes.
Yes.
Am I going to be on that billboard in Times Square? Is it going to help, get the word out about my story in Women Gone Wild so I can spread my message? Yes. And I also believe things cost money. And if there's something that's a fuck yes, and it's like, oh, that's an expensive thing and the money's not sitting in my account, I say yes and figure it out.
Same.
I say yes and figure it out.
Well, I think that there's a misconception, Blair, that it's like fame or attention or impact or influence is free. It costs money, it costs resources, it costs time, and it costs building relationships and putting yourself out there in big ways. And I always laugh when people are like, okay, you were on NASDAQ and you did this and that. You're everywhere, Kate. And, how did you do it? And I'm always like, dude, if you looked at my budget line item for personal and professional,
time, energy, money, and a lot of fucking money.
Right. It is. And it's not free. And life is not easy. It's hard, but where are you infusing the joy? Going deep and bringing the joy. That's my motto. I'm not interested in shallow. The guy asked me out and I'm like, well, what do you want? And he's like, well, just a nice dinner. I'm like, I'm looking for depth. I'm looking for better than that. I'm like, really? That's all you got?
You're like, no, I want to know your moon sign.
What?
You're like, no, I want to know your moon sign.
Well, I won't even go that far. What a waste of energy. But I think that I've just become more discerning. So have you always had a level of discernment? Because you seem like you do have a high level.
I think so.
I think so.
I've never questioned it.
It just was there. You just deep intuition.
I think I have an old soul. I've been told, I'm kind of new to the spiritual awakening stage of my life, doing a lot of healing, through plant medicine, healing guides, learning my Akashic records, working with psychics and, mediums and all the things. And the consensus is that I have an old soul, and I knew that all along. There's a lot of knowing inside of me. And I don't know how it got there, but it's probably from past lifetimes. And maybe that's a whole nother conversation, but I'm very aware.
What do you long for, Blair?
I'm trying to figure that out, besides the empowering people, because every time I know I changed a life, I know I inspired someone, it really feels like it helps mend my heart. It feels like my heart pieces get stuck together, one by one,
So longing is like the heart, the healing of the heart through connection.
Yeah. I think right now, and I don't know if this is a big ask or a little ask, but like I need a break from grief. I just want to feel unconditional happiness and not be jolted out of it. And that's a thing that like I could only control so much of that.
I understand that.
Yeah. And I need it. Compound grief.
It's intense.
It's intense.
It's heavyweight.
It's a lot. Yeah.
Well, just know you're not alone, and this is all a recent thing for you, and look at all the lives you're impacting at the same time. It's pretty incredible, the evolution. And you're so young.
And for you out there who can't see me,
she's so young.
Oh, thank you. I mean, I feel like I have a long road ahead, but at the same time, I lost my mom at 62, my aunt at 54. I'm 37 right now. I mean, how much time do we really have? And I watched 3 parents die in their 60s. So my life isn't a life where I work my ass off to retire. It's living a life I don't need to retire from because I fucking love everything I'm doing. Like, look at Diana Wentworth, from Chicken Soup for the Soul. Like, she's in her 80s still doing speaking engagements. That's going to be me. I'm going to be like, traveling around the world, speaking on stages, empowering people, doing my thing until I'm no longer like able to do that. I don't plan on like working my ass off and then retiring, because that's when people like die. I don't know.
It's like 6 months after they're dead.
Right? I want to leave my legacy. And I know if I were to die tomorrow, I've left my legacy and I'm going to keep building that.
Yeah, totally. So on your trajectory of this kick-ass, social media friggin' tycoon chick, what was your path to success? And on that path, do you have a favorite failure?
Yeah. So I used to work for Lululemon. So I worked for them for 3.5 years and I left Lululemon to start my PR company. So I started my PR company at the age of 23 at the beginning of the recession in 2008. I was new to Vancouver, British Columbia, BC, one of the most expensive cities in the world. I had no idea what I was doing, but because I worked for Lululemon, I had free yoga. So now I leave my Lululemon and my free yoga and I'm going to sign up for yoga and I'm like, holy smokes, it's expensive. So I was like, oh, there has to be like a coupon book or something for like discounted yoga. And I couldn't find it. So I started a coupon company. It started off as a coupon book and then went to online and then a group buy model. And it was all about health and wellness. It was promoting an active mind, happy heart, loving soul. And while doing this, I was building my PR company. And the thing is, with the PR company, social media marketing wasn't a thing. And people would sit down with me to learn about my coupon company. They'd ask about my history. And I tell them, and they're like, do you know how to use social media? And I would just say yes. So my biggest failure would be not the coupon company itself, because, I built proprietary software and I built this coupon company that probably never even broke even. But my biggest failure was not focusing on my PR company from the very beginning. But then in turn, that's what put me on the map. Look at this 23-year-old building this coupon empire. And wow, she does social media marketing. But like, really, don't ever start a coupon company. Just pay for the yoga class.
Oh my gosh, that's hysterical. Well, it sounded like a good idea.
It was great. But all of a sudden I was working like 15 hours a day and like 11 or 12 of those would be on the coupon company. And I wasn't doing my PR stuff where the money was. Like, my money was in PR and social media, but I was focusing on this like group buy model, my coupon company that wasn't really, it was making money, but like not. And just one day I was like, what am I doing? And I shut it all down. I was like, hey, I did it. I'll pay for the yoga. I got to focus on the money generating activities.
And you were how old?
23.
That's what I'm saying. So look at the friggin' discernment you had at 23 to be able to say that is a waste of energy. Listen, get people in their 50s and 60s that are trying to figure it out, right?
I mean, like, part of success is failing, and failing is also open to interpretation. Like, that coupon company wasn't a failure. Like, look what I built over a few years. I had a coupon company and a PR company. And yeah, there were times I was making tons of money. There was times where I had a couple dollars and that was my grocery budget for a month.
Right.
I just, I made, and everything in between. And like, that's just business in the beginning.
100%.
And yeah.
And entrepreneurship isn't for the faint of heart.
No.
Right. So
it's a lot of work.
Yeah. So what has been the consistent through line for you as far as your success model. So if someone said to you, hey, what's been your ticket to success? And success as the mastery to which you have certain areas where you have a high level of mastery.
I'm not scared to take risks.
No. Wow.
If someone wants something done and like it is of interest to me, I say yes and figure it out. In my earlier years in my business, I said yes to everything. And I became one of the few social media marketers in the area. I called it digital communications or digital PR because God forbid it's marketing. It's public relations, guys.
Yeah, right.
But I think also like I am an extremely ambitious person. Like when I was younger, I had my mom sign up for Avon and I went door to door selling makeup. I started babysitting as soon as I could when I was 12. I started volunteering when I was 12. I imported cigar box purses from New York and sold them in the mall. I worked for someone and sold roses in the nightclubs and make hundreds of bucks a night and I only made $1.25 a flower because I hustled. Like, I've just like, I know, like I'm able to pivot and I'm able to like figure it out.
Who mentored or modeled that for you?
No one.
No one.
I mean, okay, let me back up. Like I'm from a long line of entrepreneurs and like my first book actually that's right here. It's called Pulsing Through My Veins, Raw and Real Stories from an Entrepreneur. I wrote a practice book to write my book. I wrote a practice book. They both became bestsellers, but I was around a lot of entrepreneurs growing up. My dad was a diamond dealer before he sold the business and addiction got really bad. My aunts, my uncles, my grandparents, like everyone kind of had their own business. So I think there's a part of me that's genetic, but I didn't have a mentor or a business coach up until like a few years ago.
Yep.
And as soon as I had that, my business skyrocketed. And that's why it's so important to have a coach or a mentor. Like if you're listening to this and you're looking for a social media and publicity coach, I do group coaching. I do private coaching. I do done for you services. I do projects. I do workshops. Like I do all the things because imagine if you didn't have to make all the mistakes that I made, right?
True.
You get to where you're going a lot faster.
I know. I remember hearing like Oprah had like 5 coaches, like a fitness coach. And I'm like, wait a minute, I need some coaching. And I was doing, I built a gold company. And I was a stay-at-home mom, 3 kids, flipping grilled cheese with one hand and buying and selling gold in the open market in the other. In like 2008, I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I had a gut in me that it was something, but I think that there is a level of tenacity and it's just so bizarre when you're not like anyone else around you, So how did
it's lonely. It's lonely.
So what's
lonely.
been the progression for you then? Because now you really, we talk about that word empowerment and you really, it is for you. Community, it is for you. Like that's the pulse that runs through your veins. It's here to empower others. What was the switch for you from it's lonely to I am not alone?
I think they both live in me. I think they're both still here. Sometimes it's stronger than, one's stronger than the other. As an entrepreneur who only thinks outside the box in whatever community I've lived in, I've had to find like-minded individuals and even normal entrepreneurs, not everyone is like me or you. I've, found a couple different business communities with other people like me, other weirdos, other, thought leaders, innovators, creators. So it's when I find those communities that I feel really like I found my other people. But I also like at that time, I might find these people and we gather around the world and meet for masterminds. But then when I come back to my desk in my office in Kamloops, I still have that element of loneliness because I don't have that community here where I am, or I'm sitting alone in the office. So they both live together.
That's a really beautiful observation. And is it become a more peaceful experience, the solo, or what's your relationship with that?
I used to not be okay with the solo because I had all this trauma, but with sobriety and the pandemic and being safe at home, what I really learned was like, I am safe and I'm in a loving marriage. My husband and I have been together for 11 years. I've done a lot of healing work and that I do really love my alone time. I love my alone time and that it's okay. And I'm safe where before it used to be like traveling and keeping busy and like running from the problems. But because I'm going through it, not around it, I'm going through life. going through my hard times, I'm able to sit with it. And I really need that alone time. I don't always need to be around people, where before I used to need to always be around it. Now, don't get me wrong. I love being in a room full of that energy. I love networking. I love people, but I need that alone time now.
And you can be alone now, where it's just like before, the grief was just, it roars. Yeah, those of you who know that the feeling of anxiety or depression or trauma, it's like sometimes being alone it's so loud that you have to, it's sex, drugs, alcohol, whatever is going to be to numb.
Yeah.
And
doing it sober. Like, I chose sobriety before all the like shit hit the fan and
crazy.
The last few years. And I can't imagine what life would have been like. And alcohol wasn't my crutch. Like, I just didn't like who I became, and the choices I made were not good ones. And the only way to eliminate those bad choices was to eliminate the catalyst, which was alcohol. And it's interesting because my whole life, I just wanted my dad around. I wanted to be around people. I felt abandoned. And now going through all of this, it's like, I do want to be alone so I can navigate it and be alone with my thoughts to process.
Well, you've created, and to be in a loving relationship. Wow, what a healing balm.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm on a journey. Like, that's what life is, right? You're born, you die, and everything else happens in between.
True that. And man, you gotta have fun along with a ride. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, when I just think about everything that I've been through, it's like I shake in my head with my daughter. It's like my son has epilepsy and he had seizure, and my son had just died, and the police were at the house because my son dislocated his arm. And I just came into the house and my daughter walks in. I just look right at her and I'm like, Sophie, it's a shit storm. And I just burst out laughing, and she just burst out laughing because it was like literally absurd. Like,
yeah, I get it.
Happening.
Oh my gosh, my sister, okay, so my book, The Global Resilience Project, you can get it on Amazon. My sister worked on it with me. She's a social worker, and we were just in Winnipeg. So we're Jewish. And so there's part of like the death process where you have an unveiling.
Yes.
So like when bodies are buried, they don't get a headstone right away. Like 6 to 12 months later, they do. So we just had my father's unveiling. And my sister and I joked that we should do a book signing and a book reading at the graveyard because our mom and dad are there. And like, we have that dark humor because like, that's how we cope. But also like, it's so ridiculous. Like, we went early to the unveiling to say hi to my mom and my Zeta and my aunt, and everyone's actually in the same row of this huge cemetery because that's
let's have a party.
Yeah. So we're just joking. We're like, we should totally just do a book signing and a book reading at Hebrew 6 Cemetery in Winnipeg, but we didn't because obviously that's not appropriate.
Yeah,
but
it's great.
Like, yeah.
But just the finding the humor, it's like laughing at church, I just remember that. Oh my God, how bad were you going to get in trouble,
Yeah.
So bringing joy to dark places. I do believe that's our calling, Boo, is part of the lifting and the empowering is bringing light to dark places. And we got 88. I don't know where we're at, dude, but we got to create a tracking platform so we can track it together.
Yeah.
Because I'm in.
Well, I'm doing the math. I'm like, how many people are in Times Square a day? And I was up there for a month, and I was on a TV show that had 14 million reach. And I was like, I don't know, maybe I'm at like 24 million this year. So
awesome.
I'm just kind of guessing, but like, so anyways, I guess the bigger the audience, the more it's a fuck yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So just a couple other questions. Just first of all, if you don't mind just telling the audience where they can find you.
You know what? Okay. My website, blairkaplan.ca, good spot to go. I'm very active on Instagram. That's Blair from Blairland.
Love it.
I'm Instagram. I'm also very active on Facebook. You can send me an invite. You can request a friendship. Same with LinkedIn, Blair Kaplan Venables.
That's awesome. And Blair, you offer obviously one-on-one clients, you do consulting, group coaching, and you also offer something monthly. You want to tell the audience what that's about?
Yeah, I always believe in edutaining. That's one of the pillars, the empowerment pillars, edutainment. That's educating and entertaining. And part of that philosophy is giving back. So about once a month, sometimes twice, I try and do a free workshop where we dive into social media, publicity, and thought leadership. So if you want to know more about that, you can head to the link in my bio on Instagram. Usually one of the first options are where you can sign up.
That's awesome. So great. What a wonderful, wonderful just service that you provide. So yeah. So just one final question. And I now I can't answer this question anymore because you guys, Rhonda kind of blew it because it used to be like, if you had a billboard, what would you want it to say? But let me just ask you that. Like this billboard thing, what would you want people to read or know if they walk by and they saw your living mantra?
It's a good question. I would want people to look at my billboard and feel like they are resilient. Like I want them to look at their billboard and be like, I can do hard things. I am resilient.
Nice. That's beautiful. Right on. Thank you. Thank you so much, Blair. I'm deeply grateful. I'm really on so many levels. This interview is so different and so magical. And that's just the honesty and the transparency and the realness that you bring. And I deeply honor and validate you for that. So thank you so much.
Thank you for having me and for giving me the space to share my story, empower your listeners, and just, hopefully change some lives.
Yes, absolutely. Well, yes. And 1 million at a time.
Yeah. Do you have 1 million listeners?
We're gonna track it. We're gonna do a Blair counter. The Blair counter app.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, we all got to raise our game after listening to this one. Well, thanks again for everyone who's tuned in. And until next time, stay resilient, be kind, and keep doing your thing and empowering and loving on yourself. And as Blair says, stay grounded in your brilliance. We need you. Take good care, everyone. Until next time, I'm Kate McKay.
Is it time to claim your inner warrior? Please grab my latest copy of my book, Claim Your Inner Warrior, available now on Amazon.